And we'll be starting in just a second here. Seems to be a delay. Good morning, or whatever time it is in your time zone. This is the Let's Talk About series sponsored by the entrepreneurs, self-employed, and small business community on Google+. And today we're going to be talking about a pretty complicated issue. We're going to be talking about content creation, marketing, and strategy. And I was telling the people who have come in here so far that this is such a big topic. And I'm kind of overwhelmed by, I read a lot, and I read so much information about this, that my circuits have gone on overload. I know too much about it, and so it's taken me back to where I feel like I know nothing about it. But I guess basically the way I want to frame this a little bit is content creation and marketing and strategy can be looked at from different perspectives. And first of all, it can be looked at from the perspective of the people who create the content, and they definitely have a perspective. We've got a lot of them here today. Second, it can be looked at from the perspective, the search engines, how you do things for the search engines. I don't want to emphasize that too much in this hangout, but it's inevitable that it will come up and might even dominate the conversation. So we're certainly going to talk about that as well. And the third perspective, and there might be more perspectives, but the third perspective is the perspective of the reader. Our poor, belabored reader. There's so much content out there now that I almost feel like there's a shortage of readers sometimes. So what I'd like to do, I was saying I'm not even positive the questions I'm going to ask. I'm sure I'll come up with some. So I want to start with introductions. We have a number of content management specialists here, people who are in the content business. They probably all kind of take a different angle to it, and I'm sure there's other elements to their business. But I want to start by introducing them. I'm going to go from left to right on my screen, and I don't know if that's going to be the same for you. So tell us who you are, a bit about your business, and maybe punch out one point about what you think about content management, either problems you see or a good strategy or kind of whatever you want. So let's start with Bobby Joe. Bobby Joe, I'm meeting for the first time now. So I don't have a lot of information to give a good introduction here. So Bobby, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Bobby Joe. Bobby Joe Woods. I prefer to be called Bobby Joe, so thank you very much for saying that. I'm in St. Paul, Minnesota, and I was a web designer for about 14 years. Prior to that, I did a lot of work in the field doing various clerical things. And in the last year or so, I've been balancing my time between virtual assistants and creative marketing assistants for businesses. My company is Mouthy.org, and I have an overlay, but the new Lower Thirds app doesn't like it, and they just released that yesterday. So it's not like I'm not on the ball. It's just things are changing really fast. But otherwise, you could see my company logo and my website on that lower third, but they kind of messed that up. But anyway, so what Mouthy.org does is basically promotions and social strategy for brands and individuals that try not to take themselves too seriously, because I'm probably not for everybody's palate. And a lot of that is just, creative marketing, some writing, a lot of graphics work, and, social strategy, and just being able to package something for brands and individuals and start conversations for their social strategy.
Okay. Well, welcome, Bobby Joe. We'll have to talk about that more. Gary Martin, we're very familiar with Gary. So, Gary, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. I already know a little bit about your business, that you do web development. Why don't you tell us your interest in content? Well, tell us about yourself, where you're from.
Okay. My name's Gary Martin. I own a web development company where I do web and software development. We do search engine optimization, marketing packages. We also do content creation. The big thing with that is we help customers come up with ideas on what to put on their website, whether it's refreshing content just for general social media or something different in that aspect. But we also have a big emphasis on consistently putting new content up. If you don't put new content up, I don't think your content strategy is very good. It's I would say a recommendation at least once a week I mean, maybe more if you can, but the majority of the time I see once a week usually works out pretty well.
Okay. Excellent. People are kind of dropping in and out of here. Let's move on to Michael. You know, so I've got a really crappy screen. I guess it's Nelson. Michael, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us your interest in content, maybe a little bit about what your business is. Michael, can you hear us? Are you muted? Michael, we'll come.
He's muted.
Michael, we'll come back to you. Let's move on to.
There we go. All right.
Michael, you're back.
The red microphone up top, folks.
Yeah.
As soon as you join the Hangout, automatically does that.
I've got my Yeti sitting off to the side that I always keep muted, so I was trying that one. So I'm muted in multiple places. Great to be here. Hi, everyone. Michael Nelson. I've got two businesses, actually. One is the Cogent Consulting Group, and I operate under my brand name of the Cogent Coach, which is really focused on helping small business owners figure out their organization and marketing so that they can focus on delivering value instead of playing with the business tools. And then on the other side, my bigger business, where I've got a couple partners in the UK, we're all about digital marketing for small and mid-sized businesses. So we've got a tremendous interest in content, social media, and return on investment, and figuring out how to measure everything along the way as we get visitors, leads, and sales for folks. So those are my primary interests and areas of focus.
Okay, outstanding. Let's move on to Sandy Fleshler. I hope I got your last name pronounced right. Sandy, I've met you a few times. You just graduated. Am I echoing now?
Oh, your microphone's going.
Yeah. Well, Sandy, go ahead and introduce yourself. And did I silence? Am I gone?
Nope, you're there.
Okay, Sandy, just go ahead and introduce yourself. I was getting an echo for a minute there. You just graduated from an accelerator program, which is kind of exciting. I understand you're starting your own business in the PR field, but why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm an entrepreneur. Just finished an accelerator program. We are creating a software application to help small businesses, entrepreneurs, performers, authors, basically anybody who has something to promote on a shoestring. We're going to build a software program to help you do that on a shoestring. So my interest, obviously, in content is a great way to promote what it is that you're doing. So that's why I'm interested in it and what we're doing.
Great. Does your cat have anything to say about the topic?
Oh, he has plenty to say, but only if it includes food.
Okay. And Paul Mapleson is one of the moderators on the Entrepreneurs Community. He's from near London, but for not too long, I understand. But he's been in content for a long time. He was previously the publisher of the Business Bullet Points, very popular blog. But Paul, why don't you tell us a little bit about your interest in content and your business? Paul might be having technical problems. He's dropped in and out a few times.
I think he froze. I clicked on him and he won't come up.
Froze. Well, we'll get him when he comes back. He's kind of been in and out. Anyway, as I've mentioned a few times, I'm not sure what to ask here. So let me just start with, maybe this is kind of a negative way to start. What's that?
You skipped Chris because he joined after
Oh,
Gary.
I'm sorry, Chris. I'm sorry. Let's get Chris. Chris, go ahead. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
That's fine, man. Yeah, I'm Chris. You know, I run my blog on MediaFreshPress.com. You know, I do some local SEO, and I also provide content services. But so I'm kind of just here to listen today because I think you guys probably have a little bit more skill than I do, and I've also got a lot of background noise. So I'm probably just going to hang out. I hope I don't take up too much space here. I know there's some people trying to get in, but I won't stay long. I just kind of wanted to see what you guys were going to talk about as far as content creation goes, and see if you guys have anything to say outside of SEO and stuff like that. So.
Okay. Well, you know, jump in whenever you want. Oh, I'm not going. I will mute myself if this keeps happening. Going in and out. But let me. Lori Varga just showed up here, and She's also one of the moderators on the Entrepreneurs community. I'm glad she joined us. Lori, can you hear us?
I can hear you, but my microphone was automatically muted, so.
Okay, no worries. Lori, we're just still doing the introductions here, so why don't you tell us a little bit. I know you have a business that deals with a lot of different aspects of content, including graphic design. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what your business? Lori's from Toronto, I believe, so why don't you give us your little spiel.
Okay, well, first off, I just want to apologize. I'm running the microwave. It's my lunch. So if you can hear that weird noise in the background or some beeping, that's what that is. So I used to be a graphic designer. I did that full-time for many years, about 15 years. And then I needed a career change, and I wanted to get more into writing, which was something I did a bit of copywriting on the side. So now I kind of combine the two. There's my lunch. And I do a lot more writing and content-related work rather than graphic design. I'm getting a little bit more into user interface design and user experience work and that kind of thing. So, and brand development.
Outstanding. Feel free to eat your lunch during the hangout. We're not snobs here. Okay. There's still slots for people to get in, and the invitations have gone out. Sandy, is there anything going on on any of the chats or on the events page we should know about? Is anybody freaking out or anything?
I'm still not sure how to get to that.
The events page?
Yeah.
Okay. You can get to it through the Entrepreneurs community. There's a link there. I'm not sure if there's another way. I'll take a look in a bit. Let's get going here. Again, I don't know the questions, and maybe this is a little bit negative way to start, but let's talk. What do you see the biggest problem with content? You know, either content creation or management or marketing or strategy. What do you see the biggest problem these days? Let's start with Bobby Joe.
Well, I'm not a content expert. I just know what's good and what's bad. I'm new to the field of getting paid for doing any kind of creative marketing and social things, because prior to that, like I said, I was doing web design, and prior to that I was working for the man. So a lot of this, you know, talk about content, and I'm not an expert on any of it, but, you know, I think that part of the problem with content these days, as far as online content goes, is there's so much of the same. That's one problem, and I mean, I could wax poetic about why I think it's rotten, but another thing that I think would be good fodder for discussion is probably the fact that nothing is really awesome. Most of it is just the same old crap. There's a blog out there, and I'm now the name is escaping me when I have a really good memory about these things, but somebody wrote a blog piece entitled "Write Epic Shit," and excuse my French, I don't know if I just like basically got myself kicked out of Hangouts.
That's from Copy Blogger.
Yes, Copy Blogger. Yeah. I think that's not where I found it, but that's, you know, that the name rings a bell. So I'm not a blogger, I'm not an author, I'm not an expert on anything, and I hope nobody ever calls me an expert on anything. But those are two things that really irk me. There's nothing awesome. That's, you know, there's a lack of awesome, actually. And I don't even like the word awesome. I should say epic. I don't like the word epic either. But there's a lack of really good content out there. And most of the content out there is the same old crap that's been...
You just made two really, really good points. You know, it has repeated itself endlessly. If on Google Plus I see one more post about how you should engage with users and the same things.
Oh God! Don't get me started.
I'm gonna just wrap.
Don't get me started on all the how-to cancer.
It's ridiculous. There was one point where I looked at my Google Plus stream and it was all about Google Plus. I already have an alert set up in my feed reader to read about Google Plus, which I get pretty good content. But anyway, that's kind of a side issue. And the second about what you called epic shit, it's out there, but I think it's just buried. You know, we can't find it with all this stuff. But we didn't get Paul Mapleson properly introduced. So Paul, why don't you tell us a little bit about your business and your impressions on what you've heard so far? Paul, did you freeze again? We're having trouble. Paul, jump in when you're want to introduce yourself anytime during the Hangout. Move on to anybody who has an opinion on what Bobby Joe just said about too much of the same out there, not enough epic stuff, or any offshoots of that you'd like to express. This is open to anybody. Let's jump in.
Well, I was going to say the same thing, really, that Bobby Joe did, is that most of the content is lame. It's not that interesting. It's a rehash. There's like a circle of people who go around promoting their own, everybody's stuff, and that gets reshared a lot. And yeah, the whole epic thing is, I think it's a lot of people who aren't great storytellers trying to write epic shit. They think they are, but it's really not. It's boring.
Yeah, they really do share the same stuff a lot. I think the social media people do that. They start sharing each other's stuff, and some of it's okay, but it's not epic. I mean, epic is maybe too high of a high.
Has anybody ever been on Pinterest? Because the repetition of mistakes and people who don't want to do the scholarship work on Pinterest is horrific.
Scholarship work, that's funny.
Well, I'm a scholar on hair combs, and I get plagiarized and have to correct mistakes, and it's horrific.
Yeah. Barbara, that's an interesting point. I think Pinterest has a very, very good design. They have what's called user interest channels, meaning, if you follow somebody, you don't have to follow every part of them. You can follow their specific interests, and that's good. But it is pretty much a visual thing. It's not for writing. But you didn't introduce yourself. You mentioned something about hair. I noticed when I was looking at the invitation list that you have a hair blog or something, which is kind of interesting.
Yes, I'll put the link on the chat. It's for scholars. There are tribal art collectors, jewelry collectors who really know jewelry history, and there are incredible books about it. Every period, from Taurian to Neolithic India to all of this kind of thing, and the people who get followers on Pinterest are people who really know what they're doing and are willing to do the work to get the information correct, whether you're a quilter or a jewelry scholar or anything else. Google Plus, I find, is more technically oriented, so people with Google Glass and who speak in multimedia and are photographers are much more popular on Google Plus than they will be on Pinterest. And but it's the work. It's did you go to Central Asia and dig this up? Yes, I will listen to you. And there are an elite group of people who do that in any one specialty.
Well, you made a couple interesting points. One is that every social media platform has its own culture. And that means you can't post everything to every, site. There's times I want to just say something a little political, something in the news has kind of pissed me off. You can do that on Twitter. If you do it on Google, you're going to get comments. People may attack you. You might get personal attacks. So a lot of times, I just don't. So every site gets its culture. Paul, are you back with us yet? Paul Mapleson?
We have like the extreme bird sanctuary over here.
Is there a bird sanctuary? Where's that?
I heard like.
We get all sorts of.
That is my parrot, my juvenile delinquent.
That's so awesome.
Microphone now. Thank you.
He wanted to say something, I think, Barbara.
Yes, he wants to say, get out of the cage, stop looking at the computer, and pay attention to me.
Oh no, I thought he had something to contribite to the discussion. Sorry.
Well, he could. Yes, very, very easily. Thank you.
Keep your bird away from Sandy's cat, because there's a cat running around. Let me segue, an awkward segue too, and we come back to that because that's a good issue. But I want to at least broach the issue of the value that content creators get to their work, for their work, and I bet we have a consensus here that damn little. First of all, writing is tough. If the kind of content you do involves writing, if you write original content, if it's decent, marketing and getting value for your work is really, really tough. So let's get some thoughts on that, because I could probably ramble on with that for a while.
Can I go back for a second now that I finally was able to unmute my microphone and talk a little bit about content and value?
Yeah.
What I think that everything that's wrong with content comes down to 3 letters, and those 3 letters are SEO. Because everybody's generating enormous piles of content to SEO. They're not actually trying to create any value. All they're doing is trying to hit their SEO.
Yeah.
And so you've got piles and piles and piles of all this stuff out there being generated. It's all keyword rich. It's everybody's targeted their keywords, and they're just generating content and content and content and content so they can get their SEO in there, and none of it means a goddamn thing.
Oh, I couldn't possibly agree with that more. I mean, that.
I couldn't either. Bravo.
I'm just so sick of SEO, and I find it distracting when I write to even think about that. To think, oh, what are my keywords and stuff? It kind of wrecks my writing.
Yeah.
But no,
exactly.
And for years, I think we see this on the entrepreneur program. People have, or community, people have been trained to do that, or they think that's what they're supposed to do. They're just supposed to post crap everywhere, and they do. And my moderators are exhausted from deleting all their stuff, and it's just a mess.
It really gives people that actually do good work and do good organization of their content, it gives them a bad name, and people think SEO is like this horrible thing now.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's not just recently the change Google just made where they took away the keyword data. I wanted to stand up and cheer because it was like, oh, thank you, Jesus. You know what? If you want to market and advertise, then go freaking buy AdWords and advertise.
Right.
You know, if you're going to generate quality content, generate the content and quit worrying about your damn keywords.
Right. Well, and the thing is the people that aren't, according to some sources that I have, the fact that Google has decided to make the move to secure search only for their keyword data has only confused and frustrated a certain group of people, and those are the people that we want to confuse and frustrate. This is the SEO spammers. It's the ones that are putting up. It's just the ones that are putting up just walls of Cialis and Viagra and all this crap that nobody cares about. But the people that are writing for the web and the people that actually are marketing themselves the correct way and using SEO in a way that's supposed to be used, those are the people that Google is not blocking out from their services, because they know better, and it's not that big a deal. And true people who do SEO and people that get paid to do it well are laughing at the fact that everybody's so mad about this, because it's really not that big of a deal. Mm-hmm. It's just frustrating to the spammers.
Yeah. Well, and the people who want to advertise without paying for advertising.
Right. AdWords and that sort of thing is still going to keep going.
Yeah, it's I really kind of feel like if you look at all the moves Google's been making, author rank, authority, taking away the keyword data, it all comes back to they want people to generate valuable original content, not just write for keywords. I mean, that you look at all those moves, that's what they come down to.
And
the web really is for writers and people who create good content.
Well, I have noticed that when you search on a jewelry topic, such as, let's say, Art Nouveau artist Alphonse Mucha or something like that, what you're going to get is Pinterest listings. And these are, women who are housewives who will say, ooh, isn't that beautiful, under a board called My Favorite Things. I want to really kill them all, but that is metaphorical. And the only way to find the museum where a piece of tribal art, antiquity, any kind of piece exists is to do an image search or word search and then do minus Pinterest and minus Pinterest. So that you can actually get the place where the content originated instead of being repetitive, because I hate to harp on Pinterest on Google+. I just that's my traffic driver to the blog, but not in a way that you were saying before, the SEO way. People just, I forgot my point. I'm going to.
Well, you made a couple of good points.
Okay, no, I'm still following you. No.
Yeah. So first of all, nobody would do that kind of search. No, no customer would, type into Google this minus this. That would be a content specialist. I just want to throw out something that came up in one of our small business coffee meetings. I mentioned a blog post that was called "Is Google Killing Small Business?" And it was sort of about this topic, and it was a little bit less inflammatory than it sounds. But they used the example, and everybody jumped all over me when I said this. They used a hypothetical example of a locksmith. They said, suppose there's a locksmith out there. According to Google and the SEO people, what this locksmith should be doing is writing little blog articles about locksmithing and interacting on social media about locksmithing and talking to people, writing all the time about locksmithing. They said, should he really be just concentrating on locksmithing, not writing about it all the time? But everybody jumped all over me saying, well, maybe it is a good idea for a locksmith to write about locksmithing all the time. But here's the problem: how many people want to read about locksmithing? Any thoughts on that, or anything else anyone said?
I think it depends on whether you're a local business or not. Because if you're a locksmith, you have a local range. Now, if you have, a global or national service based on selling people locks, yes, you obviously, I think, absolutely want to do that, because but if you're a local business and your traffic is all local, where you really want to be is in local search, and what you want there is customer reviews on Google Places.
Yeah, the places in the local search is spot on, just what Sandy said. But I want to answer your question, Rob, where you had asked, what people thought about the fact that the locksmith is just talking all about locksmithing all the time. I have a couple of people who are clients that I found on here on Google+. One of them is a plumber in Arizona, and if he's watching, he'll totally know I totally called him out, but you guys don't know him. But anyway, he when he's on Facebook and other places like that, and here on Google+, and he's doing his G+ posts for his business page, he's not always talking about, hey guys, we have specials on locks today, or locksmithing, and like everything that he posts is also related kind of to what he does. Like there was a funny story in some odd newspaper, where they have the odd news section about some interesting things being clogged in somebody's toilet. So he posted about it, and it got some interaction or whatever. But the thing is there are a lot of businesses on here who post like constantly about their business, and I think that they think that it's about quantity versus quality. And also maybe trying to, like Sandy was saying, or Lori was saying in the chat, is that they're trying to like game, the search. They're trying to be appearing in the SERPs more when people look for stuff. But I think if
you advertise, don't you have to go to the side, to aim to the side in a community setting? For example, you don't just say, I have a locks on sale. You say, oh, in the history of locksmithing, they used to do this differently, and here is an article that posts so that people will know you're an expert and you're advertising more implicitly than explicitly. Does that make sense? Because it's what you just said. He saw something clogged in a toilet, and he posted that because it would be humorous, and it brought people to his business page and let them find out he's a good locksmith themselves. He doesn't always
He's a plumber. Rob was talking about locksmiths as an example.
Well, it doesn't matter. It could be anything. You could look at the world.
No, I'm in agreement with you. Yeah, no. I think that people that have a business should talk about other things besides their business, but they can always have it somehow relate to their business. It's just, here's the thing. I follow people on here incidentally who are photographers, who are nerds, whatever. Some of these people are Google Glass people, but I'm sorry, it's a little infuriating to me to see that that's all you post about. Do you eat, sleep, and breathe photography? Seriously? When you get out of bed this morning, you posted that amazing picture of the mountains? Come on. Where's the picture of your 5-year-old spilling the Cheerios on the kitchen floor that I know totally happened? Where's the the status update that says, hey, everybody, I got the new update for Google+. I don't know if I like it. You know, every single thing that you post does not have to be totally amazing. This is a social space. If you're a Google Glass person, don't be a glass hole and like everything you post is through your freaking glass. Come on, you take that thing off. Don't give me that crap. That's just what I'm saying.
Well, no, Bobby, I really get that. I think that Bobby Joe, excuse me,
That's all right.
I really get that. I really get that point, and I think that's what people are kind of being trained to do. They're saying, well, you have some expertise or something, and you should kind of brand yourself as being, you know, a person with that expertise. But we're all more multidimensional than that. And you know, I have a few people I follow. I'm kind of interested in crowdfunding, or at least I'm kind of, you know, following it. And there's people that are doing that, and they just post about crowdfunding all the time. And I kind of wonder, and it's not good material. I mean, I get much better material on crowdfunding from my feed reader, but they're taking that approach.
Yeah. It's an interesting topic, but no, I know exactly what you mean, and I'm not sitting here like, oh, I'm going to have a grump parade because I don't like what people post. I'm literally talking about people that's all they do. If you go to their page, there's nothing else on in their posts. It's just a stream of the same old, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about, is that the content around the web is the same everywhere we look. There's different parts that are different, and there's parts that are sort of the same. But as a you know, in the grand scheme of things, G+ is just a microcosm of the web. I was talking in general.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I like to make sure everybody's introduced that comes in here, and we haven't introduced Preston. He's somewhere in Central America. I always forget the country. Preston, why don't you say hi and your take on content management or anything we've said?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Sorry I couldn't get in right away. I had some problems probably with the internet. I don't know, and I'm on here twice, so I apologize for that too. I don't know how to get my other mug off of there.
Right. We're kind of short on people today. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I don't know what happened. Anyways, as far as content goes, I think one of the things that I've learned, and it is a learning process, is you know, I'm part of other communities, and I'm finding that if I post things about my business or about you know, promotions, obviously that's not the right way to do it. So I came up with a formula. Again, it's maybe not my formula, but you know, I'll post 20 different things that may have to do with my business, but don't actually say anything about my business. You know, more about video, more about, you know, tools that people are using, those type of things. And I will interject some personal things in. The reason, Bobby Joe, I think a lot of people don't do it personally is because Google is more open. It's not private as much as maybe a Facebook was, and I know Facebook is not private because they are open too, but not as open as Google. So I think a lot of people don't want to really share a lot of their personal with people unless they actually get connected to them or circle them or actually have a conversation with them after that.
I see that as a trend too, but it's weird to me.
Yeah, it is weird. I mean, obviously, but you know, a lot of people, of course, a lot of business owners are gravitating to Google+, which is great because Facebook, to be honest with you, wasn't working. You know, and you know, especially for business to business, I just basically forgot about it. You know, it's about friends. It's about, you know, hey, getting together and seeing what you ate for lunch and stuff like that. But Google is more supposed to be more for business, and I think that's what we're seeing. So you're going to get a lot of content that's probably just regurgitated. And I just recently had somebody, which I was really surprised by. He goes, you know, I want to circle you and I want to tell you, you do have some fresh content, and I don't see that too often. And to be honest with you, I'm not a writer. I just basically come up with something, it comes in my head, and then I start writing about it. I don't spend days and days and days about creating content or trying to get SEO on it. So
right. Well, and I remember that was one of the reasons I circled you, along the fact that you're from Minnesota originally.
Yeah.
At least we're here at some point.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Google Plus is for business.
I'd like to argue with you about that in another hangout.
Okay, we'll have that.
We'll have that
argument later. Preston, if you could do us a favor, if you could figure out how to, if you're really in here twice, if you could figure out how to get your other one out. I don't see it though, so maybe.
Oh really? Oh,
yeah,
okay. Well, if you don't see it, then I'm okay with it.
Yeah, let's hear from somebody we haven't heard from in a bit. Michael, how about you? Any thoughts on anything anyone said so far?
Yeah, I think that the thread going through here really interacts in a way that I tend to think about writing when I'm writing is from that sort of WIFM perspective of the reader. What's in it for me? You know, am I reading this and I'm getting something out of this, or am I reading this and it's the same content that we've talked about that's out there in 50 different places, just sort of rehashed and happy versus glad. And I think, for instance, to pick up on the plumber example, someone with a local business, you can write content in a way that's useful to people that isn't talking about your business, and you're using social media then to build up your recognition so that when someone does have a need for a plumber, you're at least up there in that customer decision journey where they start out considering a few people. And that's where you want to be. So you could write things about that are seasonal. Winter's coming, here's how you get your house ready for winter from a plumbing perspective, turn your outside faucets off, and things that are useful that people can find value in that aren't just repeating things and over or describing plumbing in some sort of boring way. But then you could also pick up on the local things in the community, that are interesting. So you can establish yourself as a community presence that provides value, but you're also that plumbing resource. And I think that's a piece that's missing in a lot of content. It feels like it's disengaged from everything else, or it's overly about me as opposed to you and what you can get out of it. And I think a lot of it stems from the earlier comment, SEO and black hat SEO and link building and tricking Google. And they've fortunately gotten better with latent semantic indexing and recognizing non-spun and spun content and things like that. So I think we've come a long way, and a lot of the people are still complaining about the Google updates because that funnel's getting narrower and there's fewer places to go if you're trying to rank quickly for affiliate stuff like a lot of those things are. So, that's my 2 cents. I think starting from the perspective of when you're writing, what's the value that the reader gets from it helps me. And the other challenge is, from my perspective, because if I don't think about it, I get very academic, technical, detail-oriented because that's the way I think. And so it's remember to bring those anecdotes in, bring the stories in, make it real, make it live so that it doesn't read like a textbook or something that's really dull, because it is social media, whether it's on your blog or not, a lot of the ways that it's going out is social.
That's what I meant by social, and Preston, you had a great point about, I'm sorry I just totally jumped right in there, but I was thinking the whole time you were talking and you're agreeing with a lot what you were saying, Michael. The film strip is just, I'm old. So anyway, when he was talking about how, people don't really want to be sharing private stuff or personal stuff, I didn't so much mean, like, I know people gravitate towards limited posts when they first get on here because they want to, not announce to the world that they're raging about their coworker or whatever. I just meant more of what Michael was saying, where it's like you're showing more of yourself. You're not constantly just spewing your business ideas and your photographs and your Google Glass pictures. You're actually putting yourself, your voice, your scent, your thoughts, your emotions into things.
Okay.
No, I agree totally.
Yeah, good thoughts. Lori, Barry, you've been quiet. Are you eating lunch? Or? No, she's not with us.
You've been chitty-chatting over on the side, though.
Yeah, she's like making great points on the side and then not talking to us.
Can I riff a little bit on the plumber example? Yeah, because the last winter, actually, I had to have some plumbing replaced, and my plumber, who's a guy who's done a lot of work for me, didn't have a website, didn't have anything up. So we put up a little website for him and attempted to get him into a little bit of content creation. And the strategy we were telling him to take was to talk about the older homes in this area. And I live in Long Beach. So in Long Beach and the cities that surround here, it's all older housing. It's all homes with 70-year-old pipes. And they have a variety of, and you could do a load of content, how to know when your pipes need to be replaced, and talk about the housing in this area. And I mean, there's so much you could do without SEO spamming stuff, and without having to write always about plumbing. You look at what's local. What are the problems? What are the security needs in your region? There's so much you can do as a small business in terms of great content, and it's a shame more businesses won't do that.
That probably is the future. And it's really hard for me to know where this is all going. But I think local. Years ago, when the internet was first starting, people were talking about hyper local way back then. I remember I was in one meeting, and this was, just when browsers were practically starting, where one guy was pounding his fist on the table. I'm talking about if you need a babysitter, you look in your neighborhood and you find a babysitter who's right down the block from you. That we would just be everything would be hyper local. We get news about our neighbor, not our city, you know, our block.
Isn't that what Craigslist was?
Yeah, Craigslist sort of was. Yeah.
Well, yeah, before it got skanky.
What's that?
Before it got skanky.
Oh, it's awful, man. It's awful, yeah. But I think hyperlocal is a possibility. I want to get back also to the question of value. And this is not a good segue, I'm sorry. But since you guys are almost all content creators, do you feel like you get paid for the value?
No.
I don't think anybody does. I mean, there's probably nothing lower in our society as far as pay goes than writing. I mean, I'm writing good original content. Even a blog post that's semi-long form, maybe 1,200 words or something, that's a tremendous amount of work. You have to do research. You have to, you have to come up with it. You have to think, usually several sessions. And when you look at the amount of time you've spent on that, it can be pretty significant. The actual going rate for something like that, I think is about, and this is the good rate is about $70 or something. That's awful. I mean, that's starvation wages. Where do you think that's going? I mean, there almost should be a content creators union or something.
Well, you're not going to do anything about that as long as all of those services exist to take offshore labor. Yeah. As long as somebody can go into, freelancer.com or Odesk or, any of those other services and hire somebody overseas who can work for a lot cheaper because their housing and living costs are a lot less. There's just you're not going to fix that problem.
Yeah, and there's also content farms now. I don't know that much about them. Before the hangout ends, I hope we can talk about collaboration a little bit, because I think we would work better if we did collaborate. Other thoughts on value? Anybody?
Can I say something about what you were talking about? These like content brokers and all that stuff. And as far as the value of content that's out there, there's there's places out there that are pretty strict on their guidelines, their testing, and they only allow English speaking writers there. And then you got people like Sarah Lacey from Pando Daily, and people like that I think not anytime soon, but I think the value for a writer, or I guess the value for a writer, I think that's going to go up pretty soon. I really do. Not right away, but I think places like that are helping a lot. And with Google doing what they're doing with all their new algorithm changes and stuff like that, I think good English-speaking writers are going to have an advantage in the coming years.
Well, I hope you're right. One thing, I'm not sure how this is related, but I think Google made a huge strategic mistake when they dumped Reader. They tell themselves as a company that their mission is a company that organizes the world's information. That was a big chunk of it. They had the most influential people in the world reading that. And I think it was just hubris that they dumped that. But now there's a whole ecosystem of reading. A lot of people use Feedly now. There's tools for sharing coming up that are completely outside of Google. But again, I'm not sure where it's going to go. What I don't see there being right now, and this surprises me, is a good discovery mechanism for new blogs and content. And I think they're just kind of, we're talking about the sameness problem. I'm wondering if that's going to just get more with, the new author rank they're coming up with, and where we're just going to see the same people all the time. How often can we read about Richard Branson and the celebrity entrepreneurs and that kind of thing? Anyway, I'm going on to a rant. It's getting a little incoherent. So somebody else jump in on kind of anything.
Do the amount of followers you get on a social network affect SEO?
I think there's some controversy about that. I think the answer is no, but I'm not an expert.
I'd like to think the answer is no too, and I'm not an expert. I have had experience when I do find search results. I see posts or blog posts that people come up in Google search results, and it says has 22 people circling them or whatever. So I really doubt that that's a factor, in my opinion. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. Mark Trapham did a study where they did some blind testing, and As of right now, the answer to that is no, but you know it's Google, so you know the answer next week could be yes.
Exactly. And one point I want to make real quick is everybody talks about the algorithm like it's some kind of holy deity. People might disagree with me here. I don't believe there's such thing as organic search. I heard some congressmen are saying, somebody saying like we've got to crack down on Google and not let them promote their own stuff and make sure their results are organic. I bet Google was just laughing their asses off on that one because just because it's an algorithm, Google is still deciding what gets in that algorithm and what gets on top. What difference does it make if there's a buffer between the people and the it's not a person deciding, but the programmers that decide what.
Yeah, there's so much rage about the algorithm stuff, and on one hand, I understand that a lot of the people that I circle on here are here because they simply want to be social and they're not business people, and they're not creating content that they really give a crap rises to the top or not. And so I kind of understand when they're upset because the 5 people that they always look for in their stream are missing because of the algorithm. So they need to just learn to surf by circles. Those people in a circle of people you need to check every day, and you can check that. And there's not going to be any +1 or promoted posts in that stream. There's not going to be stuff out of chronological order, and there's not going to be stuff that you really don't care that much about in that stream if you surf by the circle. But as far as the algorithm does go, it affects me too, because I'm here to be social, mostly. I mean, I have business clients, I have business whatever, but I'm here to be social for the most part. And when I can't see posts by the people that I'm used to seeing in my stream, it can be upsetting. I don't know what the algorithm is. It's some kind of Google nerd magic. I don't know. But, those guys are busy over there making candy bar phones and whatever, so I'm going to let them just make their candy bar phones, and this nerd magic hopefully will go away. I don't know.
Well, let me broach one more topic, and this is going to be one of those hangouts where we just scratch the surface and broach topics, not really solve anything. Probably some of the stuff is probably unsolvable in the short term. I just want to ask, and we have to close this probably within 5 or 10 minutes, and I'll give everybody a last chance to talk. I want to just ask, and this is my own interest, do you think collaboration is possible among writers? We have this group. We've got this group called Content Club. It's kind of a joke. It's just a small 15-person group. Few of you are in it, but it's not really active yet. I'd like to get it active because I do think there's a way for writers to collaborate, but it's tough. Could people give me your take on collaboration, if it's possible?
My Haircomb blog is a community of authors from all around the world specializing in jewelry from all around the world. So I don't know everything. And if I want to do a piece on ancient India, I'm certainly not going to do that myself. I'm going to consult. And that's why the blog is right, because we have experts from everything. That's my answer.
Okay. Lori Varga came back, it looks like, and Lori, I wanted to get your opinion on a few things. One, you made a comment, SEO is killing writing, and we were talking about that. Maybe you could expand on that a little bit. And also collaboration. I hope you're hearing me, because you and I tried collaboration on one blog post. It sort of worked. So why don't you take the floor for a minute and give us your thoughts.
Yeah, sorry. You know what? It was weird. Google thought that I didn't have a camera, and so that's why just all of a sudden
every time
randomly. So I'm back now. Okay, so it was what, collaboration and.
Well, two things. You wrote in the chat that SEO is killing writing, and that was kind of a tweet. I agree with that, but I want to get your take on that. And also about if it's possible to collaborate. It sort of is. We tried. We sort of did it. But why don't you talk about either or both of those two issues?
Okay. Well, collaboration I think is a little more involved. So the whole I'll talk about the SEO stuff. I think SEO is kind of interesting. The problem is, for most normal people, it's something that you have to work full-time to stay on top of, and I don't think that's really realistic for most writers. I would rather focus on the quality of my work and building up an audience around my work, whether or not, as opposed to people accidentally discovering me through a Google search. I'd rather people spread my name or my work through word of mouth. And I think that works a lot better too, especially when it comes to building quality referrals and a quality audience. And when I said it was killing writing, I mean good writing. Whereas somebody who is really clever at inserting keywords and they've got all the right kind of links and I don't even know how it's working anymore. Like I'm so lost. I don't even know what's going on in SEO anymore. It's just gotten ridiculous.
Okay, interesting. I don't either. And I don't know, like I said at the beginning of this hangout, the more I learn about it, it's like the less I know. And I just I think I want to just take a break from SEO for a while. I'm going to kind of open the floor for the last 5 minutes or so for parting shots. So kind of anybody who hasn't talked yet or wants to express anything on anything we've said there, go ahead, just jump in.
I jump in too much, but I just want to say one last thing, that it is getting to the point where people are turned off by the mere thought of even learning what SEO really is, because they just don't know, and to them it's just negative. And it's sort of like having an opinion about something when you really haven't read a book or a movie. It's unfortunate. I'm not an SEO expert, and I know it seems like I'm starting to sound like I am one, and I'm just pretending. But the thing is I'm learning about it, and it's become clear to me that it's, like Sandy was saying, it's about writing good content and then organizing it later. Like you have the value, you have the idea, you have the passion, you have sort of a thesis built on what you want to write about, and then you check for long tail and things like that and see, is it worth, are you going to compete with anybody on this? Has somebody already written about it? Maybe you'd find other sources, whatever.
Let me tell you something I wish. I wish that the writing and the publishing, and maybe some people work this way, but I wish the writing and the publishing was totally separate. So, there's words like, sites like 750words.com, or Google Keep. They're low distraction writing, where you just write and you don't worry about the publishing. And I think Google Plus could have done that if they were more topic-based, but there isn't. You really have to decide where things go, and that's just something I wish. Somebody else jump in. I'm kind of losing my voice anytime. We've got about 5 minutes, so somebody.
Well, I just mentioned in the chat that when you search Art Nouveau comb, and you guys obviously might not be into my topic, but there are a lot of people who are, and my Pinterest board comes up first. Try it and see. And I think Pinterest has made some kind of a deal with Google to get their search results and boards higher up in the search, because, as I said, I have to eliminate them to find the museum where a piece exists.
Michael, you're interesting thoughts there. Michael, what's your take on some of the things that have been said here?
I think SEO is a rabbit hole. I think that it's a game of outfoxing Google, or trying to outfox Google, and using tools and automating things and creating spun content to build those content silos within a blog under certain topics, and having Google and the interpretation of what Google is going to rank drive writing. So it tells me I need 300 words. Oh, it changed. Now I need 500 words. Now long-form content is the way to go. I should have 3 links in there. I should interlink in my site. If you follow all of those SEO pieces, you're going to lose out the content that you're actually trying to write, that connection with the reader, the answering of the question, what's in it for me?
Yeah.
And so I think if you play that SEO game, it's sort of like being a small business owner, and I see it a lot with the people I work with. They work an awful lot on their business. So they've got this business structure, or they're trying to figure it out, and they're doing that more than they're actually servicing clients and delivering value or marketing to do that. And I think you can do the same thing to your website or your blog if you play that SEO game. You can spend all your time chasing that ephemeral object that's undefined and is going to change that definition, which you're not allowed to know, and you're going to get nowhere, as opposed to just taking the time to write good content, using social as a way to say, hey, I've written this piece. If you're interested in this, it's over here. Chatting with people, finding interest groups. I think the Pinterest comb example is great. You just write about what you know, you have a community, and you're going to get that traffic that's meaningful traffic to you in that way instead of always trying to chase the latest and the greatest, the newest. You know, there's a huge market for SEO tools, and most of those are tools that no longer work, and they're now being sold for 10, 20 bucks because there's a little bit of life left in them. And there's a whole audience that chases that, you know, is this the holy grail? Is this the one I need? And they're not focusing on the content. They're not focusing on delivering value to their clients or doing clients' work. So I think it's a sort of subject area that's best left to people who are trying to do affiliate marketing for a living, and everyone else should just focus on the content and the group and the community that we're trying to reach and help, and we'd all be better off, and we wouldn't see all the garbage in our streams.
Well, that's just common sense, and that's really insightful. A number of good points. I'm going to go around. I'm going to consider that your parting shot, and since we have to shut this down in about 5 minutes, we're starting to get towards an hour now. I'm going to go around and ask everybody to give a parting shot on this. Anything you didn't say that you wanted to say, or any impression you've heard from what other people have said. Let's start with Chris. Chris, why don't you give your parting shot?
Yeah, so I enjoy writing, and learning about SEO is what really got me creating more content online. So I think it's left a wake of people that have been disturbed and hurt by it, and I think it's also put a lot of bad content in places it shouldn't have been. But the ability to write something and have a lot of people see it is still pretty intriguing to me, and whether that's done with SEO or social media, it doesn't matter, but I think people should really focus more and more on content and not worry so much.
Very good point. One thing we didn't talk about is just writing is of value just for its own sake. I still advise people that have a little business to blog, even if nobody really reads that, because writing is good for us too. We learn by writing. So that's a good point. I want to get our parting shots in, though. Preston, your parting shot. Thoughts you have? Other things you want to say?
Well, I just think that, the content, if it's original, it's going to go further than if you're trying to, trick everything with Google or whatever, and just make sure it comes from your heart, because people will follow that.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. And Barbara, your parting shot, please.
There's no use blogging unless you're willing to make the effort to do original material.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that. I have to admit, I've cheated on that a little bit. I have a network about California international business, and I mentioned before, it's just very hard to write original content. But I found if summarizing news items, like taking 2 or 3 things, links that people have already written, kind of combining them, putting my own impressions in a little bit, I could crank those out 20 minutes, half hour. It's cheating a little bit, but I do agree. Original content is much better. So that's a really interesting perspective. Bobby Joe, we're doing kind of short parting shots now. Anything you forgot to say, or anything you'd like to mention again, or?
Yeah, no, I was paying attention to everybody's. I don't want anybody to think I was being rude. I was having problems with the Hangouts are a little weird lately. So do you guys? I like how you talked about writing collaboration. I'd like to discuss that further with you, either in another Hangout, like Lori said, or just offline. But I'm still learning about content. Like I said at the beginning of the broadcast, I know what's good and I know what sucks. And I think that the more discussions that we have from different perspectives like this, it's been very interesting to hear about what people think about SEO. It's been interesting to hear about people think about Pinterest, and what people think about Google+. I think if we just continue to have discussions centered around content and creation and things like this, we're going to continue to learn more.
Okay, I agree, and I want to have that conversation about collaboration, because I do think we can get some things done. I do think writing is a kind of a soul lonely profession, but I do think we could collaborate at least on research for some of these things. I've got a lot of ideas about that. Let's see, Sandy Fleshler, why don't you give us your thoughts?
I agree with pretty much what everybody else said. Write from the heart, write original stuff, figure out who is your audience, what are they interested in hearing. Quit worrying about keywords. Find what the thing is that makes everybody go, oh, great. Be helpful. that to me is like the whole heart of social is being helpful. You know, it's answering questions.
So that's a wonderful parting shot, because I was struggling with a blog post. It was a research blog post. I think it was on Google Pages, and I was trying to write the pros and cons of Google Pages, and I just got lost in the weeds. And one of our members came on and said, you know, think about like when you're really emotional about something, like on Google Plus, you crank those out in 15 minutes or 5 minutes. And so I thought that point was good. Just writing from the heart is a good thing to do. And Lori Bargo, your parting shots. What do you think about the state of the universe?
Everybody said pretty much what I was thinking. I'm just really happy and relieved to know that there are so many other writers that are not focused on SEO and keywords. And I think I've been reading so many of those how to be an amazing content writer blogs, where everybody's stuff starts to sound the same because they're all following the same set of rules. So, yeah, I don't really have anything to add other than that. It was just really cool chatting with everyone today.
Yeah, this has been fun, and what has surprised me about this hangout is the consensus. I thought we'd all be arguing. It didn't happen.
That would have been fun.
Boring. We agreed so much.
I was tempted. I'm being very polite today.
Well, you want to do it, we'll let you have a second round, but as
some other time, we'll bring the gloves.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. I don't want to argue with anybody. I think that there's a lot of misconceptions and there's a lot of things that we agree on and disagree on, and it's just an interesting conversation to have.
Yeah. Okay, I am going to end the broadcast in just a minute here. I'm going to stay in the hangout for just like a minute after if any of the people want to have a debrief here. But this has been the Let's Talk About series, sponsored by the entrepreneurs, self-employed, and small business community on Google+. It's been a pretty interesting hangout today. We talked about content creation, strategy, and management or marketing. Learned some things, as we always do. We're going to try to repeat these in the future. Sorry if you didn't make it. There is a networking hangout that Gary Martin will be doing later today, I think in about an hour and a half. So if you want to just talk to people informally, that's going to be available. I do thank you for joining us. We kind of, once again, just broached the topic, but I learned some things. I'd like to thank all our speakers here. And until next time, we appreciate you joining us. Thank you.